Hey everyone, my name is Karen McGill and you're watching It's ADHD-Friendly, where we talk all things well-being for the chronically distracted. And today, I'm going to talk about money. And I am not a money expert by any stroke of the word. I'm probably the opposite of a money expert. But I think today's discussion is a really important one and it's worth having. So, in 2017, I was feeling very burnt out at work, and I was trying to I had a corporate job, and I also had an entrepreneurial venture, and I was trying to make both of them work. Neither of them were working, and I was just feeling super tired and burnt out, creatively, emotionally, energetically, and it turned into depression and anxiety. This is far before my diagnosis of ADHD. One day, after a particularly grueling day at work, when I was getting in the car to drive home, this 60-minute drive back to my house, I turned on the latest Tim Ferriss podcast, and he was interviewing a guy by the name of Mr. Money Mustache, and that interview changed my life. I will link to the podcast that I'm talking about below, but stick with me for a few minutes and I'll give you the TLDR. Mr. Money Mustache was born and raised in Canada. Go Canada. And he moved to the US when he was in his 20s as a software engineer with his wife. And they were working at jobs and just sort of doing the things that most 20-somethings do when they get married and buy a house. He discovered financial independence. I don't know how, but he decided that rather than working his entire life, he wanted to save up enough money that he could live his entire life without ever having a job again, which we call financial independence. And he actually reached that at the age of 30. Now, he's a bit of an extreme story because I think his version of financial independence was around $600,000 or $700,000 in savings. And he went on to build a blog and a whole movement around financial independence and retiring early, which is what he ended up doing. And now he has like a cult-like following of people who are interested in doing the same thing. Saving as much as they can, reducing their life expenses as much as they can, and then flipping the bird to their day job so they can spend their time doing what it is they love to do. So when I heard this podcast, my head popped off. The idea of retiring early had not even occurred to me. So of course, the Hyperfocus clicked in because my interest-driven brain was all over this. And I started learning everything I could about the FIRE movement, and that is financial independence, retire early. Now, there's various different philosophies within this movement. Some people are very extreme where they're clipping coupons for toilet paper, and some people just never want to quit work entirely. They just want to do, passion projects. Some people don't even want to quit their jobs. They just want to be financially independent because it gives them so much more freedom, flexibility, and a massive reduction in anxiety. And that's really where I feel like it's so important for ADHDers to even know that this option exists. Now, before going any further, I will say the idea of saving up enough money to retire early and do whatever it is you want to do comes with a huge amount of privilege. And I know not everybody who's listening to this video may be able to do that, but I believe that the majority of you can, especially ADHDers, because we are very smart and we are very hyper-focused on the things that we want, and we're unstoppable to that effect. So if FIRE and retiring early is something that you would like, then you can do this because you can do anything you put your brain on. So here's what the whole idea is. In order to gain enough money to retire early, and I guess we would call retiring early anything younger than 65, you need to save up enough money in investments, whether it's real estate or bonds, stocks, probably not bonds, and live off the dividends or proceeds of that investment. Whatever those proceeds are enough to sustain your lifestyle. That means two things. It means you need to save enough money to sustain your lifestyle just based on the proceeds, and you should also have like a pretty low cost lifestyle in order to be able to fund it for the rest of your life without working. Now, once again, you don't have to quit work entirely. I have not done this, although I am financially independent now. I use that as my ticket to freedom, that I can take my interest-driven brain and focus it on whatever it is that I want, whether it's a money-making venture or just something I want to do because I'm passionate about it. And that is where I thrive. That is where my ADHD becomes a superpower, if you will, and I am able to just sort of focus my time in a way that works best for me. So it's not that I encourage everybody to get financially independent so they can retire early and quit their job, but I think this community, more than any other community perhaps, needs that freedom, flexibility, and permission to spend their times doing what it is that lights them up, because our brains need that. So if there is one piece of self-care that you could do over the course of your life, it's learn how to manage your personal finances, understand the concepts of financial independence, retire early, and the podcast will be a great jumping off point for that. Again, I'm not a money expert by any means, but when I listened to that podcast, it changed everything for me. It changed my awareness around money. It made me really think through how I was spending money and how I could change things in my life and just optimize it for happiness and joy and the things that interest me, rather than all the crap that we buy just because we buy it. So when I was able to focus my attention on buying things or investing in things that were conducive to my ADHD brain and the interests that I have, I was able to really accelerate my savings to a point where now we are financially independent. And while I'll never give up working and I'll never give up coaching or educating about ADHD and just loving on this community, I think that if I wanted to stop tomorrow, I absolutely could. And that helps with my anxiety and all of the worries and fears that are so prevalent in my brain from a lifetime of not feeling very sure of myself. I hope that makes sense. So if you are curious about the financial independent retire early community, I'm going to drop a few links below to some very trusted experts in that field and a couple of books that were game changers for me. Again, you do not have to be a financial expert. I suck at math like nobody's business. But I have been able to move myself from working a job that was not suited for me and draining all my energy to where I am today, doing what I love, and I just don't have to worry about money. It's not the driver for how I choose to spend my time, and I would love that for all of us. So if you have any questions about the FIRE movement, or if you have people that you follow in the movement, if you've heard of it before, drop a comment below. Let me know. I would love to start this discussion for our community. And if I can change the trajectory of your financial future, then I have changed the trajectory of your life.
Goodbye.
That makes me feel pretty damn good. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.